Hey everyone, welcome to the Gaming X. Today we will be taking a look at our review for FURI on the Nintendo Switch. For those that may not know too much about this title, FURI is essentially a twin-stick shooter and swordplay boss fight title. Now you play as the prisoner, sentenced to receiving non-stop torture in an advanced prison. Opening the game, a man known as the Voice, who I should mention is dressed as a bunny, sets you free with the challenge of escaping the prison. You'll travel across 10 islands floating in orbit, beating 10 boss battles along the way. Now this is a surprisingly well developed storyline for such a basic premise, and the mystery kept me intrigued throughout. Now before we jump further in, if you do like what you see today, then hit like, it really does help these videos. Even just consider hitting subscribe. We will have new reviews and news for you every Monday, Thursday and Saturday, covering the Nintendo Switch, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. With that being said, let's take a look at FURI and if it's worth adding to your collection. So let's start with the graphics, and this is a looker for sure. I did have some initial concerns with the port to Switch from the PS4 and Xbox One, but thankfully I had no reason to be. This looks great whether it's docked or handheld. FURI wears its anime influences on its sleeve, and that should be expected. This was designed from the same mind as Afro Samurai, Takashi Okazaki, and well, he's done one hell of a job here. This world and its cast of boss characters are just so very unique. Each of them feel like they're from a different timeline and fiction. Now as you progress through the game, a smart design decision was this idea of travelling through 10 islands to escape. It's allowed for variance in the imagery and these bosses at every turn, and it avoids repetition. Now each of these locations is very much a reflection of the boss contained, so everything on show always feels like it has a purpose, and it's not just flash for the sake of flash. The graphics and the vibrant colour schemes, they motivated me to keep pushing myself to progress, and I would look forward to what I would see next. It's a refreshing change of pace in a gaming world where we're so used to seeing grey and brown colour tones. Now even the small nuances of the playable character, the prisoner, they feel necessary. His hair flows upwards like gravity is non-existent, and it's these little visual flares that build upon the world's mystique. Finally, weapons, and these have all the finesse you would expect from a game like this. Swords spark, multicoloured bullets cover your screen, and characters teleport in flashes of colour. It's exceptionally crafted and a true credit to the vision of this title. So gameplay. Now I want to say before we jump in, this is not an easy game, and while you do have difficulty options, even the opening fight is harder than some endgame bosses out there. This is not for the casual gamer, and that's exactly what the Switch needed. It feels like it was built by gamers for gamers. Additionally, I would say changing the difficulty level to an easier option takes too much away from the game. Each boss contained has multiple stages you must defeat, and choosing this lower difficulty level removes entire stages from these encounters. It just loses the impact the title was intended to have. Just keep practicing, keep trying, and I promise you, you will have one of the most rewarding experiences the Switch can currently offer. It's not a game of trial and error, but a game of skill, and that simply means practice. Nothing feels cheap as you enter each battle, and you will never feel beaten by game design. Now the game quickly establishes the controls throughout the first encounter, and from here you're going to be left to your own decisions. Twin stick shooting feels fantastic, as does the swordplay, and I didn't once encounter any issues with the controls. Now I was wishing at points I could blame the game, especially on the third boss, a particularly annoying boss, but I couldn't. It was me, I just wasn't good enough. Between boss battles, you will also find walking sections as you navigate to that next boss encounter. Now FURI uses this time for the Voice to continue the narration of our storyline, but these controls due to multiple changing camera angles were awkward and largely unnecessary. Fortunately, the developers clearly recognised this, and they included an auto walk command. Now I would suggest everyone does this. It's an opportunity to simply enjoy the storyline, take in the visuals, and reward yourself a much needed break in between these incredible fights. One slight issue I did have with this game was the inclusion of some largely unnecessary quick time events or stick wiggling in FURI's case during battles. They are infrequent, but when the rest of the game is so heavily skill based and responsive, it's a shame they put these few seconds of stick shaking to break out of a forced CGI segment. It just breaks the intensity. It could easily and should be removed. They would not be missed. Performance wise, I can confirm I faced no issues with framerate, whether it was docked or not. Unfortunately, the game isn't that accommodating to handheld however. The camera frequently pulls out so far, you can barely make out your location on screen, especially in a hail of bullets. And then there's the Joy-Cons, these are just not really built for a title like this where precision is key. Now if you do have the Pro Controller, I wouldn't play this any other way. I don't want to say it's not functional with either because it definitely works, it's just not ideal. So you can probably tell so far that I'm a fan of this game and it just doesn't stop there. Let's talk about the audio. The soundtrack is up there with some of the best. It's filled with synths and electronic, it fully reflects the environments you will find yourself in alongside the intensity of the boss battles. This is one of my favourite soundtracks in quite some time, and it contains contributions from Carpenter Brute, Danger, The Toxic Avenger, and Lorne. The soundtrack is so good you can actually purchase it on digital and vinyl, and I suggest picking it up. When it comes to the sound effects, I can be picky in this area, and this definitely has the basics in place. Swords sound great as they clash, vocal work is excellent, and some environmental sounds start to build upon the world. I think however there is an opportunity for development. More sound effects and more ambience could have been the final piece to bring in this world to life. So the final verdict, and what can I say, this was one of my favourite experiences on PS4 and Xbox One. Now it's one of my favourites on the Switch. Controls contain all the fluidity I remember, the soundtrack is exceptional still, and graphically this is a stylistic and beautiful game. Some minor issues do still remain, such as the minor QuickTime events during battles and the opportunities with sound effects, but otherwise this is a great package that will keep you coming back for more. The Gaming X awards FURI a 9 out of 10. Now if you like what you saw today, then consider hitting subscribe. We have some great titles coming up, and if there's anything in particular you want to see on this channel, let us know in the comments below. We'll see you on the next Gaming X.